a total, we should have a total of maybe 14 or 15 with the recent registrations last night, which is a very good amount. Usually for the Research Writers IG, usually we have
room for just 5 to 10 minutes every morning.
Yeah, we usually have about around 6 to 10 attendees. So we have a very good turnout. That's probably thanks to the other IG, the non-native language educator issues IG, because we probably are combining our interests and more people are coming. So if you're here, please stand by, just relax, get yourself comfy, and we'll start in a couple minutes. We just want to give people a time to join, and then we'll formally begin.
We have already 19 participants.
And so, and then minus us as attendees, probably there's.
And then we have 12 attendees.
Yeah. So 12. So we probably have maybe three more coming if those that registered are able. I'll still wait just another minute till like 32 after the hour. Then I'll begin formally.
Yeah.
Get us rolling.
So I just want to say that we have a new member all the way from Boston now. Katisol has a new member.
Wow.
That's Dr. Veronica Maliborska.
Welcome, Veronica. I'm a Bostonian. Yeah. Back Bay, Beacon Hill, North Shore.
Thank you.
She became a member to join this webinar, and I'm sure she's going to keep joining other webinars also.
Perfect. And we do have, I can't see now, but we do have 2 or 3 attendees joining from the UK. They're part of a group of recent MA and CELTA graduates that I'm working with. So 2 or 3 of them are joining. I'm not sure if they're here yet. We have a couple people that wanted to join from Spain, but just due to the middle of the night, they'll be watching the recording. So thank you for inviting Bostonian. We have Jonah from Missouri. We're all over the place, so that's wonderful. With that, I might begin. Is everybody okay if we begin?
That's good.
Okay, perfect. So you all know the title. We're going to look at the panel members and coordinators in a minute. Just so you know a little bit of our overview of what we're going to do, because 2 hours is a long time. The introduction, I'll give an introduction and a brief overview of the topic, right? How did it come together that these 2 interest groups are working together? We'll have coordinator, meaning the IG coordinator, coordinators and the panel members introduce themselves. Then that'll be pretty brief. And then we will not ask the attendees to introduce themselves in the interest of time. When we do get to Q&A sessions after each panel session, which you can see there, panel 1, Q&A, panel 2, Q&A, when we ask panel members to pose questions, ask attendees to pose questions to panel members, we'll ask you just to say where you are and where you're teaching, so that maybe that might inform how the panel member might respond, right? Are you in adult ed or higher ed, or maybe it won't even relate depending on the type of question that is posed. We'll give you a break depending on the amount of time, somewhere in 45 minutes, an hour into it, probably 45 to 50, we'll give you a break. It'll be 10 or 15 minutes. You can go stretch your legs, get more coffee, get a snack. We'll come back and we'll do the second panel. The first panel is our non-native, but we're calling them multilingual educators, to move away from the English hegemony, and we'll look at their experiences. And then after the break, we'll look at the experiences of journal editors and authors, and how to look at ways to move research into other domains, such as narrative inquiry and stuff like that. Then we'll have closing Q&A. So here we are. I've sort of covered most of it, but just to get a little more in detail. So Henry Nguyen is the coordinator of the non-native language educator issues interest group here in California, TESOL. And he and I were collaborating on just topics. And I was speaking with Jonas, who shared an experience that he had done in the past about just looking at multilingual educators' experiences around a panel. And then I thought how that could be sort of connected to writing beyond just what often is seen as research. Some people overlook that we have this narrative inquiry, reflective practice, other sort of forms of research that lend stories to be told from our bi and multilingual educators. And that's how we got here. I will start with Henry. Do you want to come on mic and just introduce yourself? Anything you want to share? Just your name, where you're teaching, anything.
Thank you, Kara. So my name is Henry Walter Tân Nguyen, and I'm currently teaching at San Diego College of Continuing Education, my beloved home. And I have been doing the coordinator for the interest group, the non-native language educator issue, and also the intercultural communication issue in the last 2 years. And I only been teaching like pretty much almost like 2 or 3 years now. And so originally I was born and raised in Vietnam. I came to the state of California roughly about 14 years ago, where I started learning ESL at my current college where I'm working at right now. And I have a lot of background in working with refugee, immigrant, and asylum seeker, and also homelessness, because that's who I am and where I came from. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Henry, for the Research Writers Interest Group. So I'm Kara McDonald. I work at the Defense Language Institute. I do teacher training, and I've been the co-coordinator probably maybe for around like, I don't know, 16, 17 years. It's a privilege to be able to serve in this role. And yeah, I guess I'm located in Monterey. Ce, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Kara. My name is Ce Gao. I work at the Defense Language Institute together with Kara, and we have some colleagues today who joined us also from DLI. Welcome to the session, and I am working as a co-coordinator with Kara for the Research Writers Interest Group. Thank you.
Thank you. And is Jinhee here? She might not be. Do you see Ce's
Yes,
Jinhee here?
Jinhee is.
Jinhee,
Yes.
would you like to introduce yourself? She has been nominated for Incoming, please, for 2026. She's now learning the ropes this year in 2025. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jinhee. I'm a second-year doctoral student at Pepperdine University, majored in learning technologies. It's a great honor to be an incoming co-coordinator for writing interest group at California TESOL. Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jinhee. So our panel members, I'll invite Jonas to come on mic, then Henry if you want to share anything else, and then Island. So Jonas, do you want to share just an introduction about yourself? Are you good with your mic? I can, if you're having trouble, I can always.
Oh, okay.
We're good now. No problem. You're here. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So I live in St. Louis, Missouri. It's been 5 years since I moved to the US. I'm a KA teacher, but also an adjunct lecturer at Webster University. I work in a language immersion school here in the US. So I've been in education for 20 years, and yep, mostly I've taught like English as a second language in countries like the Dominican Republic, Mexico, and I've also worked as a teacher trainer, teacher educator in Mexico. I work in different TESOL programs and stuff like that. I was a representative for like Cambridge University in the state where I was living in Mexico, and I am happy to be here.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Henry, anything else you want to add briefly that wasn't shared previously?
Okay, good. So a little of my background. So I got my associate in English in San Diego City College, and I got my bachelor in linguistics, and also my master in teaching English as a second language. And now I'm in my second year, my doctorate program at Murray State University. And my focus mainly about the student, the learner and the learning. And I've been working so closely with my Haitian student, how to help them to succeed, development success in and out of the classroom. So really my whole focus is all about the student. And yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the professional side there of you. And Eileen, you want to share an introduction for yourself?
Sure. So thank you, Kara. Thank you very much for organizing this important webinar today and giving us a chance to talk about some vital issues in our profession. My name is Aylin Barış Atılgan Ralye, and I want to say hello to you from sunny California. Well, at least Northern California is sunny today. Mm-hmm. I'm still saying hello from Petaluma, and I do live in the Sonoma County. I work at Santa Rosa Junior College and College of Marin. I work in the multilingual English for multilingual students department in Santa Rosa Junior College, and I worked in the English as a second language department in College of Marin. And I've been teaching multilingual students for many years. Most of my life, I have taught higher education, even though I did work in a K-6 school in America. And one time I worked in a high school for 2 years back home in Turkey. And anything else I want to share, I want to say I'm very happy to have chosen a profession that I dearly love, and it's my passion. So I will never go back and regret what I chose in life, what I did in life. When I grow older, I'm going to have a lot of beautiful stories. I already have beautiful stories.
I was just going to say, you already have beautiful stories, I'm sure, with all the experience in the classroom. But yeah. Thank you, Eileen. Did you have anything else you wanted to say? Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I think one thing I might want to also share is that I have been very involved in TESOL organization, and I really believe in professional organization and a professional dialogue, because we do not always have time to talk to each other as colleagues while we're busy teaching. But these professional organizations like TESOL help us get together, find some time and talk about very important issues, and maybe find solutions even to problems that we're facing at work. I worked for mostly TESOL International Association, and I served in the second language writing interest section, and I was in the leadership steering committee for 6 years, and then I was nominated and chosen as the chair. I served as chair for 3 years. We do not have a second language writing interest section in TESOL yet, but maybe one day we can start that also. And it's nice to meet you today.
Thank you so much. And moving to the second panel, looking at our journal editors and authors of published works. Let's start with Ondine Gage, please.
Okay. So with regard to published works, would you like me to address that?
Just introduce yourself. We're going to get to the actual panel, but just general introduction.
Okay.
Where you work, your interests.
Yes.
General background.
Okay. So where I work, I'm a associate professor of education at Cal State Monterey Bay. I teach in the College of Education, the Department of Liberal Studies, which is the undergraduate major for pre-service elementary teachers or students who want to go for a multiple subject teaching credential. I got interested. The reason I ended up in this domain as opposed to just strictly applied linguistics, because I started out in applied linguistics earlier in my career, is because I just didn't understand why we did such a bad job in this country. I really didn't. I thought, we know so much about how languages are learned, and I actually was raising a simultaneous bilingual child, and he was thriving. And I just couldn't, in 2006, when I started my doctorate, I couldn't believe the data. We were just failing our non-native speakers in schools. And so I went back for my PhD and I looked at language awareness. I worked under Leo van Leer, who is a very well-respected professor. He used to be the editor of the Modern Language Journal. And I spent about 2 years in a middle school classroom collecting sort of mixed methods data. So I spent a lot of time observing the way students and teachers interacted. And I got more and more interested in the policy that created those environments in classrooms. So I ended up doing my PhD in education because I felt that the colleges of education really need people who have our background, that's actually lacking in K-12 education. In terms of my publishing, I actually got very interested in collaborative online intercultural learning in the last 6 years. I developed a professional development community on my campus, and I encourage faculty to participate. Collaborative online intercultural learning is where you partner with another professor somewhere or teacher somewhere else in the world, and you identify a task for your students to come together and work on collaboratively. What I like about this is it puts the two classes in a situation of being reliant upon one another to achieve a task. And it creates an environment, well, at least I try to create an environment in my classroom where I encourage students, regardless of what their language background is, to think strategically about the ways in which they communicate with others, the ways in which they read people's facial expressions, the ways in which they observe language barriers, and then how do they overcome those language barriers, the ways in which English is now spoken around the world by a majority of people for whom English wasn't their first language. In fact, it's spoken more diversely than ever before. And in every small community has different ways of representing ideas. And you can't expect that people are going to understand you the way you may speak within your local community. Therefore, you have to be very sensitive to the ways in which people are expressing themselves. Look at language with wonder and curiosity, ask questions. Look for, as I said, language barriers or ways in which the communication is broken down, and then strategize for ways to overcome those barriers. And I approach my teaching in my classes this way, both with my students who are going to be teachers as well as my beginning writing classes, because I don't want to privilege just one language in a classroom. I want to encourage students to be flexible and think creatively with their language use.
Thank you so much. And you touched on a lot of things which I think will be really valuable when we get to the actual panels questions. I really thank you so much. Hanan Khalid, Hanan, please share just an introduction of yourself and your role in terms of interest of writing, ethnographic writing, journal editing.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hanan Khalid, and thank you so much for your kind invitation to the panel. I am the editor-in-chief of the Connections journal with the Foreign Language Association of Northern California. Our journal highlights the voices and work of language teachers, and it has shaped by educators like you. I hold an MA degree in teaching foreign languages and a doctorate in curriculum and instruction with a focus on diversity and social justice. These areas guide my belief that language classrooms are powerful spaces where identity, equity, and access matter as much as proficiency. When students feel seen and valued, meaningful learning can truly happen. I have spent many years in teacher training, curriculum development, language assessment, and adult learning at the Defense Language Institute in Monterey. And I'm currently supporting university level programs and inclusive teaching practices. I'm excited to be here today and learn from all of you. I also would like to thank CATISOL for providing this webinar where our voices can be shared and heard. And with such opportunities, we connect, we exchange ideas, and build a worldwide community of practice. So thank you so much, and I truly appreciate the chance to be with you this afternoon.
Thank you, Hanan. And you heard a little bit about me. I'll just sort of share in terms of my role. I am editor-in-chief of Korea TESOL. It's a TESOL affiliate out of Korea. And I run that journal. I'm involved in some of the publications here in TESOL. I'm editor of the newsletter and coordinate the monthly book reviews for the TESOL blog, and I'm reviewers on various other journals. So the world of publishing is very interesting to me. We'll learn more about all of us in the coming panels. So I'll start with our first panel, and I apologize because my screen is what you call hijacked. I need to get my questions from, well, actually, maybe I can get them over here. Please hold. I have all my, I have all my, yeah, you could, here, I just will go like this. Hi, everybody. You can see our back questions. I'm going to take a picture, and then I'm going to take another picture, and then we'll be ready to go because my screen is hijacked. Let's go back over here. Okay, we're ready for the panel. There goes the reality, right? You get everything lined up and your ducks aren't in a row. Okay, so the first question I'll ask to everyone. And the first, we'll go in the order of Jonas, Henry, and then Eileen. So the first question, I wanted to ask you about a summary of your background and your journey and or experience as a multilingual educator. Now, all of you have shared a little bit about your background of where you're from and of what you've done professionally. This question is particularly around your journey and or experience as a bi or multilingual educator. Can you share a summary? So Jonas, anything that comes to mind when I pose that question to you about your journey?
Oh, well, I was much young. I was very young when I started that journey. That was back in the Dominican Republic when I started teaching French. And then I moved to Mexico back in 2005. That's where I started like teaching English. And yes, it was a bumpy road because you learn along the road. You're teaching, and I mean, you may know at that time I knew the language, but like when it came like to teaching methodology, teaching methods, so that was just the beginning. So what you study in college and just in the applications, these are two different ways. One thing is to talk the talk, another thing is to walk the walk. So um, it was a bit difficult at first, but somehow like I got lucky and then decided like to go back to school while I was in Mexico. Went for my MA in TESOL, which enabled me to actually like go a bit further and like have like a grasp of like teaching methodologies and like really like be into like second language acquisitions and stuff like that. So um after I finished my master's, so I started like getting involved in like teacher education because I felt like yes, it's nice to teach English, teach kids and everything, teach adults, but like somehow I felt like really connected to the teachers And yes, I started like training teachers for Cambridge University for both like language tests and also like a TESOL certificates. So I also got like trained as a teacher trainer for,
Mhm.
by Cambridge University, and I was a speaking examiner for them. From I don't know if that's like very common here in the US, but they use like a European framework of languages. So it was like
Mhm.
from I was a speaking examiner from like A1 to C1, which just in Mexico was considered like big, and then I was like, well, Mexico is great. I'm having a good time, but like I need to see what's out there for like language teachers, which is exactly when I came to that first TESOL convention in Atlanta back in what like was like 2018, which is exactly where I met Kara. Yeah, we met and from there, I mean, like just being around, like, international colleagues, that changed my perception of like, what teaching a second language is like. And then when I returned to Mexico, I wasn't the same. So I got more involved, and then I decided to pursue like a PhD, went to get it in educational technology. So, and there came COVID, and I had like, you know, uh, well, I was like, okay, so if there's an opportunity in the US, I'm gonna take it. And I got like two opportunities, and then the one that convinced me was the one from Missouri, and here I am. So it's been like great so far in Missouri, and I'm teaching in a language immersion school. I've had the opportunity to work in. We have like three schools in one building. We have a Spanish language immersion school, French language immersion school, and a Chinese language immersion school. So I was hired for both Spanish and French. I've had the opportunity like to teach in both schools. So it's been great so far, and I'm very thankful for the journey I've had. So that's it.
Thank, thank, thank you very much. And having all that information will be good when you answer the two subsequent questions. So Henry, again, you're going to have the same question so attendees can know. Can you share a summary of your journey as a bio multilingual educator?
So it's funny because my journey started with one sentence: money was everything. So when I came to the state of California, that was stuck into my head because my family, we are immigrant, refugee, and asylum seeker family. So we came here with nothing. And I remember the first few months when I started learning ESL at my current college right now as a student, we became homeless. So the homelessness took a big hit on me. Like I had to really find a way to make money to support my family. And I did not speak English at all at the age of 21 years old, man. So, but from trying my best to make a living to survive, and then I realized that English was my key to empowerment, to get out of homelessness. So I really pushed myself through the whole ESL program, like when I was homeless, and then we got out that, and I went through my whole educational journey. But what really got me started, because I never thought of myself becoming an ESL or additional language educator at all. I was going to go to nursing school and to become a nurse, because like money was everything. That's how, in Asian culture, either you become a doctor, lawyer, like the minimum, like go become a nurse, so make a lot of money. So otherwise you are at the grace of your own family. But as an ESL student, I've been through a lot of different journey where I realized there are a lot of gaps that really push English as a second language or additional language learner out of the system and fail them. And I experienced those challenge myself, where I was told that you are not good enough to continue. With your accent, you would never be able to graduate. My professor told me that directly when I were an ESL student, some of my professor. And then I lied to dare myself. So I dare myself to come back to be an educator, to really book myself through the whole system, go back to where I started. to help the student who experiencing the same thing that I did before. And that's how I became a multilingual educator. And during my journey, before I got back to San Diego College of Continuing Education, I volunteered myself in Thailand, where I taught ESL to the Long Neck village, like between Chiang Mai and Chiang Rai. So for a few months, I also went back to Vietnam to open, like, to rent out cafe shop to this ESL to people who are not able to learn English as a second language to support themselves. So I did that for a while, and then I came back to went to all my graduate school to become educator and to go back to San Diego College of Continuing Education to become an educator. But my main goal is to really go back and try my best to work with my college, to work with the college, to close those gaps, to help the student, to really help them. Not one product fit all, it's not going to work for them. And we'll talk more about that later in a second or in the next question. But and one funny fact that I never graduated from high school, and so I don't have my high school diploma, because in Vietnam the same thing happened. My family really poor. We did not have money to pay for education, so I got kicked out. Do it like in my 10th grade. So I never had my high school diploma. I came to the state and became homeless. So I went through the whole ESL program from different colleges and whole educational journey to be where I am today. So that really quickly.
As a doctoral student, and very much. Thank you so much, Henry, for sharing. And we'll learn more. Thank you so much. Aylin, can I ask you to share? Again, I'll pose the question. Can you share a summary of your journey and or experience as a bi or multilingual educator?
Yeah, thank you, Cara. So I'm really enjoying hearing everybody's experience today. We have so many different kinds of experiences, and we're all coming from different backgrounds. It's a very rich conversation that we're having today. So this question is a very tricky question because it was an interview question in one institution, and I got carried away because I can talk about this for 5 hours, but still I wouldn't be able to cover everything. So today I just want to try to summarize, if I can. I hope to summarize what I've done. So because Henry was talking about his background, his talk made me think like I wanted to give you some information. In Turkey, we have to decide on our jobs very early in life. We have to decide what we want to do in our education system. So if we want to go to high school, in elementary school, we take nationwide exams. And if we can get into a certain percentile, then we get to study in the best schools in Turkey, state schools, free state schools. And if we can't, then we just have to find a school to go to, basically. It's a pretty competitive and tough system. So I spent all my elementary school years working, reading, being disciplined. And my mom was a teacher, and I guess there was no other option for me. But I loved reading, I loved studying, so it wasn't like a torture. I enjoyed it, basically. So I took exams in elementary school, and I got admitted to a private high school, which is Izmir American Collegiate Institute. So this is a Turkish and American high school back home. And it's secondary school and high school together. It's 7 years. And it's a very interesting school in the sense that almost all our classes were carried out in English, gym, home economics. So I learned to play tennis in English. And I learned to sing songs in English, many songs that people from 1960s, 1970s will know. I learned to make brownies and cookies. So it was more kind of like an American culture immersion plus Turkish values high school. So even science, physics and chemistry, I took in math, I took in English. But then the tricky thing is you have to take 2 exams in Turkish again in order to get admitted to university. So I studied for these exams, but in my high school, I really loved English. I'm a language person. I just love languages. I loved English. I loved my teachers. We had a lot of teachers from America, Britain, a few from Australia, and Turkish teachers. And my love of reading and writing told me I need to be in a job that requires reading, writing, speaking, but mostly like verbal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to put on a list what you want to study. So and submit that before you take the university admission exams. So I said, I want to be a teacher, or I want to be a translator and interpreter. And if you're lucky, you're going to get into one of these universities, good universities, where you can learn, more about what you'd like to learn about. So I took 2 exams last year of high school, and I placed into Orta Doğu Teknik Üniversitesi, which is Middle East Technical University, back in the capital of Turkey. And I studied English language teaching, literature and linguistics and methodology in foreign language education department. And I graduated as an English teacher from that school. And right after graduation, I started working in a private university where the medium of instruction is English. So I worked in Bilkent University, teaching English as a foreign language in a preparatory class where students, if they want to study at our university, they have to learn English, they have to be proficient in English, in academic English, they have to study 1 or 2 years. And if they pass that, those 2 years, let's say, they can move on to freshman, sophomore, and then continue their education. So I worked there as a faculty member, full-time faculty member. I was a teacher trainer. I worked in curriculum and testing. And let me think. And I also worked in what we call faculty academic support team, where we provided academic support to some other departments like international relations, political science. We were working hand in hand with the faculty to help them writing projects. So I worked there, and then all of a sudden I received an invitation to come to America to teach Turkish culture, Turkish diversity class in Bethany, Connecticut. So I came to Bethany, Connecticut. I taught in Bethany Community School, K through 6. And I think that was the happiest year of my life because I was working with little kids, kindergarteners, these little cute kids who called me Miss Turkey, hello. And the only thing they knew about Turkey, my country, was the bird turkey. So I became very popular during Thanksgiving.
Of course.
It was just an amazing year where I basically worked on my own curriculum. I was teaching traditions from Turkey to my students, or how life works for a student in Turkey. I enjoyed my experience so much with the school and community that I was looking to see what else I can do. Then I started taking some classes at Yale University, because Bethany Community College is community school is like 20 minutes from Yale University. And the teachers over there were very welcoming. I told them I was a professor back home, and I just sat in on the classes, loved the classes. I thought I want to do my master's. So I had already worked for a number of years as a teacher. Now I was an experienced teacher who wanted to become a non-traditional student, basically. So I applied for schools. I got into an MA program in Northeastern Illinois University in Chicago. And I did my master's in linguistics with a concentration in TESOL. We did study a lot of linguistics and syntactic trees, which was very difficult. But
and just sorry, Aileen, to just maybe you have 1.5 more minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, 1.5 minutes. Yeah. So where was I? What was I saying?
You were finished. You were at you were doing your MA and the courses.
Yeah. Middle East. Yeah. So Northeastern Illinois, Chicago. So over there, I started really getting involved in these classes on sociolinguistics and teaching international students. I get even more into it. So I decided to apply to an PhD program. So I started Purdue University, English, and I graduated and taught many multilingual students along the way from all different kinds of countries. And I also worked at the OWL. You probably know the OWL, the Purdue Online Writing Lab. I was a writing consultant there, teaching and a research assistant. And finally, I was hired by UC Davis, moved to California. And later we moved on to Sonoma with my husband. And this is where I am teaching multilingual, multicultural students in 2 community colleges. And community colleges are wonderful. I'm enjoying the experiences. And thank you for listening to my supposedly short story.
No, I think, well, I've allocated more time for the first question for everyone because this gives people depth regarding the next 2 questions. So we'll move back to Jonas and I'll read the question. So just for our attendees, the next 2 questions are going to piggyback and I'm going to ask them together to each attendee. So each panel member, sorry, not attendee, each panel member will answer 2 questions at the same time, just in the interest of time and because they kind of piggyback on each other. So Jonas, please share one example or a characteristic that has benefited you in your career as being a bi or multilingual educator. For the second question, can you follow up and can you share one challenge you've encountered in your experience as a bi or multilingual educator? So if you can answer those 2 questions at once, and then we'll pose the same to the other panel members. Please.
The answer for the second question, I already have it, but could you please go back to the first question?
Sure, absolutely. The first question is, can you please share one example or one characteristic, personal characteristic, that has benefited you in your career as a bi or multilingual educator?
Well, especially here in the US, I think that being a French and a Spanish teacher has really benefited me. And not only because I speak Spanish, but also because I've lived the Mexican way of life. So because I was there for like almost 17 years.
Wow.
So seriously, so here in the US, I don't only relate like to kids who look like me, I also relate to brown kids. So it is very appealing. So that's something that has benefited me. So which will lead to my answer to the second question. But yes, so Latino parents they look for me a lot here because the kids relate to me, parents relate to me, I understand them and understand their culture. So that's something that has helped me. But now something that has happened here to answer your second question in the US. Unfortunately, I was just really. I think I've shared this article with you in the past. So I don't remember the name of the author now, but he's a black male educator. He's published this article about where he says black male teacher attrition in the U.S. educational system. Needed, not wanted. So My experience here has been that like basically in my school, since we're in international school, so most of our staff we like from all over the world, you know. So when I read this one's article, I understand about like the role or how like a black male or an African American male is perceived in the educational system. So you're not judged by like your intellectual capacity or your pedagogical skills. It's mostly what you represent, and basically that's what I've lived. As you remember, like in my presentation, so like I've worked as a teacher trainer. I got my doctorate and everything. So but here in my school, I've been mostly used as the, just like I mentioned in his article, as the police. I'm the police teacher. So in a matter of like what, 4 years, I've already taught 7 different grades.
Oh my
First
gosh.
year, I started teaching second grade French,
Mm.
and when a teacher quit, I was transferred to third grade Spanish.
Oh wow.
Then from third grade Spanish, they were planning on like the next at the end of the school year to transfer me to like fifth grade Spanish. And trust me, it's not as it good. It's just because like they had no one to have to deal with them, so like it's me, because these kids they
And
responded to
can
me.
you, sorry to interrupt, can you, when you say deal with them, can you unpack that for the audience? I know what you mean, and maybe
Yeah,
some do. So when deal with them, deal with what children and how and why?
exact. Well, it's just that like culturally speaking, it was difficult for some teachers like to deal with like inner city kids.
Mm.
And inner city kids and also like brown kids, and well, all these kids they responded to me. So basically uh all my skills were overseen, like, so all they see is like a 6 feet tall black man who is big, like kids respond to, parents respond to him, parents want to talk to him. So like yep. So I moved like from one grade to another. So I never know what grade I'm gonna teach. It's just like depending on like whose teacher is having a hard time, who is about to quit. So basically, I've been like moving from like Spanish to French, French back to Spanish, and yep. The only grade, I mean, that's like my year 5 in the US. The only grade I haven't taught is fourth grade. I've taught first, second, third, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth already in 5 years.
Mm.
So basically, yes, do I do well with kids? Yes, academically speaking, they do better with me because that's also something that like this author also pointed out. Because like kids, when they see like when they have like a teachers who look just like them, who also like cares about them. There are many qualities that we bring inside the classroom, but also like I don't know, like I've been in education for 20 years, so I've seen, for example, people, will get into our school, who have been in education for like 3, 4 years, 2 years, and also like where I actually have like to almost help them do their job. So like they become administrator in like 6, 7 months. The only thing they have over us, because it's not only me, there are also other teachers who are like very well, I would say like good at their jobs, and like we have like degrees, the years of experience. So they all like those new teachers have over us that like they were born here, and they Caucasian. So
Yes.
like it takes very little time and they become principal, assistant principal, instructional
Mhm.
coaches. And then like like for example, my classroom has been used as the classroom to send the kids that no one wants to deal with, no one can deal with, kids who
Mhm.
actually like bite principals, assistant principal, so they are sent to my classroom. So there have been days in my year here in America where I've had like literally 2 classrooms where I've had like, 40 students because like, yeah,
And
you
and
the guy. So
and
yeah,
not to cut you off, but in the interest of time, I
yeah.
will ask you, do you
Uh,
want to say one wrap-up sentence before we move to Henry? Just something to conclude your sharing.
well, I mean, sometimes, I mean, it feels like, my intercultural, my multicultural skills, my training, rather than being a gift, it can be a curse.
Understood.
Unfortunately.
Understood. Thank you so much for sharing honestly of the benefits and the challenges you face. So Henry, I'm going to read the same questions to you again, just so you have them, and you'll answer them back to back. Can you share one example or characteristic that has benefited you in your career as a bi or multilingual educator? Second, can you share one challenge you have encountered in your experience as a bi or multilingual educator?
Thank you, my friend. So before this moment, I have a different answer, but I was looking at the chat and saw say maybe student and parent respond well to you because they didn't see you as someone who would judge them and have bias against them. So really gave me a different way to answer the second question, because the one thing that really helped me or benefit me as a multilingual or educator is the foundation that I have, which is awareness of my student population and what they bring to the classroom, but not just to use them at the surface of my teaching, because in a culture responsive certain teaching practices, talking about their culture food, their culture music, their holiday, they are the only surface of teaching, right? But it not really tackle the problem that how can we meet the need of our students? Because I'm a big fan of Paulo Freire, and the ideology of one size fit all and the banking system education where students are passive learner, and they have to sit and we deposit information into them. That's not really how we can help second language or additional language learner. Because at myself, I have a lot of background, immigrant, refugee, asylum seeker, and also homelessness. So if students come late to class and we say, okay, they're not really serious about the class. They always late every day, because at all college, we have class from Monday to Friday, 3 hours a day. And sometimes they come, sometimes they go, and sometimes they late, or all the time they late. So with the mindset of the banking system of education, okay, here my judgment, here my biases. But for me, I really look into, okay, let me survey, let me talk to the student, let me stay up the class and see what's really going on. And students are passive learners. So in my classes, I see students as my co-creator of my curriculum, of my classroom. So for the syllabus, I never finalize the syllabus until the second week of the semester, where I sit down and ask students, what do you need? What do you need on the syllabus? And I include their need on the syllabus. So because I teach low ESL beginning student, so they say, teacher, I would like to have translation in different languages. So the first week of school, I survey how many first language that I have in my class. And then I include translation of the syllabus in those languages. And teacher, I want to have more information about the immigration, how to deal with ICE, how to respond to ICE, or if I have family member who have been detained or deported by ICE, what can I do? And then I include all the resources in different languages for them. And also in my classes, I don't use textbook, because I have that awareness that textbook maybe only work for one population, but not for my population. Mainly I have students from Haiti, from Dominican Republic, from African country, from South Sudan. So I use student negative. And how do I know? Because in my class, I have wall of survey. So every day before we end class, I walk up the classroom. I say, okay, here, For 10 minutes, I would love for you to write down feedback. What can I do better tomorrow to help you learn? What do you want to learn? Do not book your name on it. And they write down their feedback, even in one sentence, in one word, to help me, like to book, to give them that perspective to co-create the curriculum with me. And this really helped me. And the second characteristic that benefit me is, I think, it's kindness and love, because I love Bell Hooks, I love Paulo Freire, and the pedagogy of love, the pedagogy of the oppressed really helped me to look at teaching as the way to show my real love, to show my commitment, my trust, my knowledge, and of course, responsibility, respect, and honor and open communication with my students. And that's how I create that space where I help them minimize systemic barrier. I see them as learner, and I focus on learning, not grade. And that takes me to the second question. What is the second question again? Let me look.
The second question is a challenge that you have encountered in your experience as a bi or multilingual educator.
Oh, thank you, my dear. So lately the big challenge that I've been working with students is assessment. Traditional assessment, in my opinion, based on what I know, is really not working out for students, and it's really create a lot of systemic barrier. And like lately in my doctorate program, I've been working with a lot of my colleagues and my professor to create a best practice to help to meet the need with the student, to humanize assessment, and how to not dehumanize student in the way that when they take those traditional assessment. So at our college, we have every semester students have to do 2-time CASA test, comprehensive or those student assessment system for to evaluate their level. But the thing is that test is for all level. And sometimes when we have students from level 1, level 2, level 3 to go to do the test, and they encounter questions from level 7 or level 6, it's going to really dehumanize their learning. And whenever they come back to me and it's teacher, I feel so bad, I'm so angry, I'm so upset, I don't understand anything, and my learning is not improved. I don't want to continue anymore. So that really dehumanize the student, because the test create for one size fit all. It's not for the population of all students. And that's why I've been working like in my doctorate to see what can I do? What can we do to support all students, to really ensure that they continue with us, to bring the success out of the classroom. And that's why I've been working with a lot of, like I do informal survey and like to really bring their voices to the college and to let the people know. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. For the two questions I will pose again to Aylin. Just for our attendees, we do have a fourth question for each panel member, but I might hold those and give us a break after we hear from Aylin. And we'll do some housekeeping regarding time while we're all on coffee break. So Aylin, I'm going to read the questions to you again, and you can answer them back to back. So can you please share one example of a characteristic, and one example or characteristic, excuse me, that has benefited you in your career, your journey as a bi or multilingual educator? And then can you share one challenge that you have encountered in that journey or as a bi or multilingual educator?
Sure. Thank you, Cara. So one characteristic that has clearly benefited me as a multilingual educator is my multilingual and multicultural background, combined with my experience as an international graduate student in the US and as an international educator working with diverse student populations from all over the world. I completely agree with Henry that maybe in the past, the education system was designed according to a certain population's needs. But as the diversity grew in America, the needs of students grew also. And then one size fits all pedagogies did not work in America anymore, and they do not work in America today, basically. So an international teacher receiving international rigorous education cannot necessarily sympathize with a student who is at a community college. We need to dig in to understand the students. So I told you about my background, right? And my background seems like a pretty rigorous, hardworking kind of background, even though I spoke English well, even though I worked, at universities, good universities. I taught research papers and everything. When I came to America at the age of, let me not tell you, because then you're gonna calculate my age.
A young woman.
But when I came to America later in life, let's say, I realized I can't do a transaction in a bank because I cannot understand the language. I don't know the words that they're using in a bank. And I started living in America, and I'm trying to live my day on a daily basis. I need a, apartment. I need to rent it. I don't know how to rent an apartment. I do not know how to lease an apartment. So all of a sudden, I started realizing students have many other needs other than academic English, while they're struggling trying to write academic research papers. This is their daily day reality, where they have to go to a bank, and the bank doesn't give them a credit card right away. They have financial issues. They have emotional issues of being far away from home, not having a community. Who do you call when you're sick? Who do you reach out to? So my being an English teacher kind of ended in America. I started becoming more human, looking at the human side of the story, right? Because back home, maybe I was a bit more comfortable, and I was teaching students who were at institutions where they didn't have to worry about food or other things. So it was maybe, I worked in some schools of privilege, I have to say, but now the real life hit me. So seeing these realities really helped me understand the multicultural and the multilingual population has other needs, and we need to care genuinely about them. We have to show cultural humility and sensitivity and personal connection to be able to reach out to them. And academics are important, but unless we reach out to these students as human beings and have some heart connection with them, education is not going to be education. So yeah, I'm so glad I came here and got to meet people from all over the world, different cultures, different languages. And I so much appreciate now, more than before, how much it is difficult to learn English. It is hard to teach English. I had these realizations. So you asked me about what benefited me. Yeah.
Now, what was your challenge? What challenge did you face? And I mean, it might also intersect a little bit with what you shared in terms of coming and realizing what didn't work in terms of academic English, but maybe you have something else to share?
Sure. So my biggest forever challenge is missing friends and family.
Yeah.
My heart is divided in two. Half of my heart is always back home with my aging mom and dad, my nephew who's going to be 14 on the 27th. I want to be with them, but I can't be with them. So that's a forever challenge. And it is a very important challenge. And that's why I feel we need to be treated with compassion and care, because it doesn't matter how good we are as teachers or as academics, but we're humans at the end of the day. And some cultural misunderstandings also has been my challenge. And I'll just give a short example. Last year, I joined an online meeting in one of my institutions, and there was a group of retired community members who wanted to work with our international students. And, you know, I said, oh, this is a great idea. You know, the life experience and wisdom of the elderly would be beneficial. And then after the meeting, I'm thinking, oh my God, I said elderly. Those people were, according to me, according to my Turkish values, elderly. But what if I offended all those people out there, right? Mm-hmm. So what did I do? I sent an email to people in the meeting and I said, after the meeting, I felt uncomfortable with my word choice as I thought I might have offended people. So I decided to write a letter to, so I wrote a letter and I said, I just wanted to let you know, I felt bad about using the word elderly because the word is not used much here in the US, but I want to inform you that this is a word we use a lot in my culture and we use it with high respect and admiration. And then I also added, in Turkish culture, there's a strong emphasis on respecting the expertise and wisdom of the elderly, with older individuals often considered valuable sources of knowledge and guidance within families due to their life experience, making it a key pillar of traditional Turkish values. This respect is deeply ingrained in social forms, often manifests as reference to others in decision-making and everyday interactions. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be offensive. So I wrote this. And then I got this response. Eileen, dear Eileen, thank you for your note. You are right. Elderly has some negative connotations here. But I think we all understood your good intentions and appreciation. Take care. So this one extra mail cleared this communication and showed to people I was coming from a good place in my heart, but this cultural misunderstanding could make people feel that I was a disrespectful person. So let's please not judge each other, especially if we're multicultural educators. We might be translating from our own languages, but that thing might mean a lot and something good in our language. So please check in with each other to not misunderstand and to love each other, basically. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank all of you for your time. It has just been a little over an hour. People might need to stretch their legs. I know that we said that we were going to have a Q&A. I think I'm going to kind of chit chat with our panel members. Maybe I'm thinking some questions could be put in the chat and maybe we could consolidate them and address them maybe at the end. I want to make sure we have sufficient time and equal time for both panels. So maybe we'll say Q&A for the end, the final end. So if you do have questions for the panel members on this panel, so you don't forget, please put them in the chat and Si'i and I as moderators will kind of organize them and we can pose them at the end. And we'll do the same with the panel members from the next panel. But in the interest of time, it's been rich. We have 3 more questions for each panel member. We'll see what we could do with that maybe, but I want to make sure that we, obviously honor the time frame of the webinar and honor all the people that are here to present. It's been really rich in the content that's been shared. I appreciate that. So with our 10 minutes, it's now just 38 to the hour. Let's just say it's 40. If we could come back at 10 to the hour, most of us are on the on the West Coast, sorry. So that would be 3:50, but for those of you in Central or East Coast, you can do the time shift. And we'll come back and we'll move into our next panel. And you might hear some chit chat between the panel members about how we want to address the questions. With that, Si'i, can you pause the recording just so that when we're having chit chatting and things and people are going and getting their coffee and things, we don't have all that in the formal recording?
Yes, it's paused.
We start.
Yes.
Perfect. And then can you share the shift in the 3-member panel? So just about how I suggest we shift around and move me out. I think if we want to go to the next slide, and then why don't we focus on our Ondine and Hanan first with their 3 questions, and let's see what time we have left. If there's time for me, I can answer some questions, but a lot of people in this group may know somewhat about me. So I want to make sure we have time for Q&A. So I leave you, Saeed, or moderate. I'm going off camera.
Okay, thank you.
Or off mic.
Okay, if you can help monitor the chat, that would be great.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I think Undine and Hannah, thank you very much again for your willingness to be in this panel today. And actually, Kara, before you go off camera and before we start,
I won't go off camera. I'll go off mic.
I would like to invite you first to briefly talk about the thoughts on picking this topic for the second panel.
Yes.
And then we'll get into the questions. Thank you.
So I shared briefly in the beginning, but so working with the CATESOL newsletter, I do have a small role supporting the CATESOL journal and the blog, and as well as other publications. I work with Hanan, supporting her on the Connections Journal and other journals. A lot of people often think that, you know, there's one thing that is research, which research can be many things. And especially when we're looking at all the stories that we just heard of from our 3 previous panel members, how rich their stories are. And those stories shouldn't necessarily just be a conversation in a coffee shop or just kept to themselves. Well, we have a webinar and we're sharing them. And I'm sure many people, as Sayi shared, she has her journey. Things are resonating. Webinars are great for sharing, but also publications are great for sharing. There's personal narrative, there's ethnographic research, autoethnographic research. We could go on and on for reflective practice. So the motivation for this is for members to start thinking about their journeys as multilingual educators, regardless of their background, and think about how they might want to share those stories through forms of publication in and outside of CATESOL. That's it.
Thank you, Kara. And thank you for the brief introduction of the topic. So we will have 3 questions for our 2 panel members, and you will take turns to answer each question. And also, I may remind you when you are about around 3 minutes mark, so that we can have more time to have the Q&A sessions for this panel and also the previous panel. Thank you. So the first question is, as you can see here, can you share a summary of your background and experience as a published author and or journal editor? So Undine, if you would like to start, and then Hannah, if you could share afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I am not the traditional author. I was not someone who was very comfortable writing as a young woman. I was very dyslexic. In fact, I would say that with the advent of using obviously technology as a support, my writing grew. And I think my best writing teacher I ever had was in my master's program. And he gave us just a lot of really good feedback on our writing. I hadn't had teachers that gave me good feedback on my writing. I'll give you an example. I can remember taking a class in college, and an instructor said to me, I said, well, why did I get a C on this paper? And he said, well, you just need to study the writing of good authors. Like the people we're reading. And I couldn't really make that connection at that time. And then later, when I did my degree in applied linguistics and I started to look at languages, it gave me this lens for analyzing language and language use. And I got more and more interested in functional linguistics, sort of a blending of both functional and formal linguistics. And it started to make me look at it a little more differently. And then doing a PhD in education, you take courses in methodology. Well, you take courses in all kinds of methods. And that was just a real eye-opener for me, because there are so many ways we can go about answering a question we have. And really the key to good research is identifying approaches that will get at the thing that's bugging you, the thing you want to better understand. I hadn't played around much with autoethnography as a kind of as a format or a genre. I'd done mostly traditional social science research, both qualitative and quantitative and mixed methods. But I went to a conference in 2018 and I met a woman, and she just was talking to me and asking me about my story. And she said, you should really look at autoethnography because you have a very interesting story. And so later on, I bought the book she told me to get, and I'm going to see, I don't know if you can see it, so let me turn my background off. It's called Autoethnography as a Method, and the author is Hee-Wong Chang, who's a Korean scholar, and this is like
I'll put it.
yeah, this is the gold standard for autoethnography. And it's a very interesting approach to kind of interrogating your experience and collecting artifacts from your experience, because the interesting thing about our own personal experience is that a story changes every time we tell it. So to really interrogate it, you need to pull artifacts, and you need to ask other people about that, their perception of that experience. And it kind of forces you to look at a problem from multiple dimensions. So I think those were some of the things that were really helpful. But I think primarily, in all honesty, it's looking at my students' writing and giving my students feedback and thinking about what they need to communicate their message a little more deeply, and trying to think about the kinds of questions that I posit so that they don't feel shut down and not heard like I felt as a young woman, but instead positing questions about their writing from the perspective of the reader needs more information. The reader it's a little bit lost here. Does this idea connect to the idea before or the idea after? Finding ways to address things like sentence boundaries by saying things like, is this a complete idea? And just helping them get more in touch with how they're parsing language for their reader. So in other words, the writing, it's not a reflection of them that you're correcting, but having a kind of dialogue on paper with your students so that they better understand the reader's perspective in consuming their text.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing the book resource and also for sharing your experience, and also a message to remind all of us, regardless of the format or purpose of the writing, the clear communication is the key. So thank you. Hannah, would you like to share? Hannah?
Yeah, thank you, C. So I truly believe
It's 4 o'clock.
I truly believe that ethnography and narrative inquiry play a powerful role for us as teachers across K to 16 and beyond, because they turn our personal experience into a legitimate form of research and reflection. So teaching is a subjective experience. Only with research and assessment we add objectivity. So research better informs our practices and our decision-making processes. Also, autoethnography in particular invites us to see our own stories not as isolated moments, but as a broader social, cultural, and institutional context that shape our students' education and our education. As a research method, it does blend our personal and analytical dimensions in our practices. As teachers, we heard our previous panel members, they critically examined how their identities and emotions and classroom experiences intersected with the larger educational system and their surroundings. Their experiences were impacted by curriculum, by the policies, by language ideologies, and cultural expectations in their context. So this helps us uncover how power and privilege play out a role in our everyday teaching practices. Then when we start comparing traditional research to autoethnography, I believe that autoethnography positions us as knowledge creators. Through our systematic reflecting, journaling, and analyzing key teaching moments, we connect our lived experiences with theoretical insights. So think of it as democratizing our voices. In a sense that it opens our academic inquiry to our voices that might go unheard as non-native speakers of English in our institutional contexts. So it will allow us to see our classrooms as mirrors of a larger social reality. So unfortunately, and Odin talked about that and Cara, and it's despite its benefits, autoethnography is often less popular among educators and teachers as a research method for many reasons. The first one is the perceived lack of objectivity. So we said that research is objective. And autoethnography, because the teacher is everything. Is the researcher, is the narrator, is the reporter. So usually this perceived lack of objectivity really is seen as one of the downsides of autoethnography. However, it's not seen by me, okay? As the editor-in-chief of Connections, I recently published an autoethnography, and I put it as at the top of the table of contents as the first study in the journal. I worked closely with the author to guide him to step back and report objectively the study as a researcher, not as the subject of the study. And this is where the difficulty is we do, as in autoethnography, we rely on our narratives to structure the research. And in the middle of being deeply involved in the narrative, we overlook the objectivity of the report in how we can deliver this report objectively. So stepping back and looking from outside and try to report it objectively, I think a second pair of eyes would help the author and all of us as writers and experienced teachers to report our ethnographies. So, and our stories, and each one of us has a valuable story to tell and share. How our role, for example, if we say how my professional roles influence the way I understand power and privilege in the society or in my school. And for example, how has my identity as a non-native shaped to my decisions, for example. So there are so many ways to frame and structure our an ethnographic study. And yeah, if would be more interested to draft your autoethnography study and send it to us at Connections. I would be more than happy to read it through and yeah, provide feedback and support you in publishing, sharing your voice with the greater community. So
Thank you, Hannah. And as you mentioned that you recently wrote a piece, and if you would like to share your article with everybody, maybe put the link in the chat so that we can use as an example. And also thank you for giving some great ideas to write our own stories in this way. So we'll move on to the next question now. So this is a second question. If you could offer one piece of advice to novice or veteran authors, what would that be? I know, Hannah, you have provided some of the suggestions for writing our own autoethnography pieces, but if you have more ideas and suggestions that you would like to add, and then I will ask Undine to share hers. Thank you.
So there are so many ideas on how to share our voices. So the first thing we would need to do is to start thinking about our research question. What I wanted to really write about, how my voice or how my presence or how my professional contributions and how is my teaching is impacted by the surroundings, or how is my background as a non-native speaker of English has impacted my contributions to my school, to my students' learning, or even to my colleagues' learning, for example. And with the research question, and systematic journaling, and I want to underscore systematic journaling. So mainly, I'm going to share a link of the recently published autoethnography in the chat.
And thank you. I'm sharing a lot of different links for publication in and outside of CATISL. Thank you.
Yes, that would be great, because it's a little bit tricky to be the subject of the study and to report the study. So the first thing is I have to forget that I am a researcher. I just gonna write a question and I start journaling. Then, or I will journal systematically my experience. Let's say I would save 15 minutes at the end of the day, every day, and to write my experiences and what happened during the day. Then I will write my research question. Then I will go back and analyze my reflective journal to identify the data that would pertain to answering my research question. And through the data, and the unbiased assessment of the data. Okay, and I always recommended the researchers or the authors is to give themselves a little bit of time to after journaling to go back and look at their journals, so they will have an unbiased look at the data and their journals and be able to theme out the particular data that would answer the research question. I also recommended that to start small. Do not have two very complex research question, but start small. So, for example, my identity as non-native English speaking teacher played in my teaching beliefs. Okay, as simple as that. It doesn't have to be teaching beliefs and confidence and classroom decisions, or so I would choose only one variable. Then I go look at my reflective journals and how through my reflections, supposedly unbiased reflections, I was able to identify the themes and how I would be able to answer this research question. So autoethnography follows the same principles of any educational research. So within the methodology, it does start with abstract, it starts with introduction and background, the purpose of the study. Then we go to the methodology, we have the research question, and also has a literature review. Okay, so I research the literature and find what people wrote about the topic. I start drafting my methodology section, and how I collected the data, the instruments I used, and then the analysis of the data, then the discussion of the analysis of the data that was collected, then a conclusion at the end. So at the end, we do add this level of objectivity to our subjective practice. So, and we'll be able to share our voices with the greater community. So, yeah,
thank you,
that's all about it.
Yeah, thank you for the detailed suggestions, and especially for forming research questions. I always found it's the most difficult thing to start with. So maybe we can ask you to come back and share more strategies and advice on that. So thank you. And Andine, would you like to offer one piece of advice to us?
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you.
So one piece of advice with regard to, can you be specific?
So for either, veteran authors or novice authors to start, either
okay, I can do novice.
to one form of, research.
Okay, so novice for novice authors. I mean, starting with the ideas that sort of percolating in your head, keeping a notebook and just jotting down ideas, jotting down responses or thoughts that come up with regard to responses to things you've heard on the news or heard in a song or a poem or read in an article. The things that move you, and that's a kind of a messy, sloppy way, but those notes actually can come to fruition. They may not come to fruition tomorrow, but they could come to fruition, who knows, in 10 years. I mean, sometimes you get an idea that just kind of percolates and you keep pushing it. Also, I kind of want to just backtrack a bit on the autoethnography. It is a hard field to get published in. I respect Professor Hanan's perspective. And I think I was looking at the journal, and it's beautiful. Looks like a wonderful piece. But I will say that I've tried to submit an autoethnography that I actually did. I called it an auto, what a bi auto ethnography. It was a piece I did with a Spanish scholar about our friendship during COVID and how we informed each other's teaching, comparing and contrasting the social context of our country and teaching during the pandemic. That got rejected twice, so I wrote about it in my own book. So that was my workaround. I also want to say that to really don't let critical feedback attack you. I think that was always my weakness as a young writer. I took people's comments way too personally, because I think bad writing teachers attack your writing as if there's something wrong with you, whereas rather than helping you figure out what you're actually trying to say, like, because you can say something and it's really meaningful to you, but you're not in the brain of your audience, and you need that objective feedback from someone else. So take it and try not to be destroyed by it, because it's so powerful if you take it with grace. And and honestly, I'm not the person with the best solution, because I remember having 4 dissertation advisors and submitting a draft of my dissertation and to each one, and then getting comments. But guess what? I lined up all the books in front of me and went page by page through my dissertation, looking at what one author said, the other one, I'm sorry, reviewer said, and they all said different things. And I wanted to pull my hair out. And I complained to my advisor and I said, I don't know which way to go, because y'all are saying something completely different to me. Because again, what I was writing about was resonating with them, but in different ways, right? And it was interesting because that was when she said, okay, with your next draft, clean this up, do your best. And with the next draft, we're going to use a Word doc, and they have to pass it around so they can see each other's comments, which was very nice. But again, it kind of goes back to that point that Einlin made about assessment, and even Henry made about assessment. My colleague Corinne Sloan at CSUMB, we're on the assessment committee, and she always reminds us the root of the word assessment is from adsidere, which means to sit by. And that creates, if you're truly sitting by your students, which is what I think Henry's attempting in his description, you're really creating a zone of proximal development for your students, as Vygotsky, hypothesized, that you're there and you're seeing at that point where they're struggling, and you're able to give them that little boost that helps them clarify their ideas. So that's where that marriage between the writer and having someone who will give you feedback is so valuable. But quite honestly, I think a lot of times the way we are taught to assess writing with rubrics, frankly, is garbage, because the rubric can never speak to the nuances in the student's writing that you're helping them pull out. And that is my great frustration. I only give the final grade a rubric because that's what's asked of me. But on drafts, I tend to kind of dig in deep and try to help the student pull the ideas, the things they're trying to say out. And it's also hard because just the whole genre that you're attempting sometimes doesn't work. And sometimes the whole thing needs to be cut apart and reassembled in a different way. And the way I think might be a good way to assemble it may not be what you see, right? And that's again a subjective stance that we all have as editors, right? So, I mean, I will say the very best editor I ever had was Charles Bozerman, who's a very well-known writing scholar at UC Santa Barbara. He's retired now, but I submitted a paper to his journal. One of his colleagues got it first, and she just ripped it to shreds. I mean, she bled all over it. There were so many edits and marks, and they kept saying to me, "Oh, your data is so good, but I don't get this and I don't get that." And I spent a month just isolating myself trying to clean this piece up. And in the end, I submitted it. Unfortunately for me, that woman who was the original editor had to take a leave of absence because she had a family emergency, and it landed in the lap of Charles Bozerman. And he looked at it and he said to me, "This is a beautiful paper. You've got beautiful data, but there are 3 papers in this paper, and you need to write one paper." And he had me go back and he said, "Okay, I want you to write a nice tight paragraph of what you want to say." And then he had me develop each line, and I had to revise that paragraph probably 10 times. And then he said, "Okay, now make every sentence a paragraph." And then I kept building those sentences into paragraphs. And in that way, I created this cohesive piece that expanded, but it gave me a lot of insight about my own writing, my own thinking. And I couldn't have done it without that like deep feedback. So that's where I say, love those editors who make you bleed, because the bleeding is a healthy thing. Especially if they say revise and resubmit. If they just throw it out, that's really tough and painful. But when they give you that feedback, follow the feedback. Don't fight back. Don't get bitter. Don't get angry. Know that they are coming. If they think your work is worth it, they're coming from a place of love to push you forward.
Thank you, Andy. I think, we may have experienced this before, but really like your advice, how we look at critical feedback and constructive feedback, right? And also, if we are denied for one journal, or we can always submit it to a different one. And I know Kara is pretty good with giving very detailed and constructive feedback if you are interested in submitting for
But I'll
copy.
say that's my strategy. Submit a paper to a high journal, get really bad feedback, you're horrible, do all that feedback and submit it to another journal.
I'm really good with that too, Sadie. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Submit it to something bigger than you are actually capable of. You get nasty feedback, you do it, and then you submit it to the next tier down, and boom, published.
Okay, thank you for chiming in. So we have it's almost the time. We have the last question here for our 2 panelists, and if you can just using 2 minutes quickly answer this question, and then hopefully we have a few minutes left for Q&A, or we may run out of time. So this is the last question. What do you find to be the most rewarding or challenging aspect of the publication process, and how do you navigate it? I think you both have touched upon this part, but if you can just share one piece and with everybody, that would be great. So thank you. Hannah, would you like to start?
The most challenging aspect, so first of all, is very rewarding experience, okay? It gets me in touch with great educators from with diverse background and different missions and purposes. And it gives me the sense of giving back, okay? So, and seeing others helping emergent authors, okay, to publish their papers, okay, and go through the process is very self-rewarding for me. The challenge is time and patience, not from me. Okay, I'm patient, okay, but for the author, and I think Cara will second that, okay. Many times the authors do not have the patience to go through the rigorous review process. Look at it this way. If it is our first or second or third publishing experience as authors, there are areas to improve. As a mentor, okay, editor, I cannot provide all the feedback at once, but I have to parse it in small chunks. And because if I were to bombard the author with all the feedback at once, that would be very discouraging. So some papers would go through 2 rounds of reviews, others would go through 6 or 7. However, I'm willing to go through the 6 or 7 rounds of review, okay, for the value of the message that this paper is presenting to the world. So the challenge is the author's patience to go through the rigorous constructive feedback process and be able to read the feedback thoroughly and implement the feedback and not to give up in the middle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I didn't want to interrupt. For the interest of time, we will move on to Undine's quick answer, and then we will wrap up. Thank you.
I think she's absolutely 100% right, and I think it's also time to write and time to devote yourself, because most of us are teaching, which consumes everything, and then we have our family demands, and we have professional affiliation demands, and at the end of the day, we're spent. I mean, you need to write. You need to get up real early in the morning when your brain is clear. I guess maybe that's subjective. I do. I can't write at night when I'm exhausted. I could maybe better when I was younger, not anymore. But the other thing I've noticed is, so my stepfather was a writer, and he used to say to my mother when he met her, he said, what you have to understand, because he was retired, and he taught ESL part-time. He was a retired French teacher, but he also taught ESL in his retirement. And what he used to say is, he said, I start writing at 9 in the morning, and I don't come out of my office until noon, and then I want to have lunch. And he would say, do not disturb me between 9 and 12. And it was interesting because their relationship evolved so that she would stay up, I think, all night watching movies or playing online games or something. I don't know what she did. And she'd sleep and, roll out of bed, and then they'd have lunch together. They were both retired. But the irony is that that was the one thing he was really, really regimented about, was his writing schedule. And he published, I don't know, 5 or 6 books after he retired, before he passed away. And I am so grateful for those books. And I want to say that too, because to sit and articulate the things you're feeling, not only does it inspire others, but it's the trace of who you were on this planet. And not to get emotional, but I absolutely adore reading my stepfather's books now, because I can still hear his voice and I can still feel him. So write for your family. If nothing else, write these stories. To inspire others, to inspire the next generation. Sorry, I'm feeling tired and I'm a little emotional. But yeah.
But it's true. It's true. Write your thesis, write your dissertation. You give birth to writing, you give birth to your children. You raise children, you raise the work that you publish.
Yeah. And also, writing is a part of the process to decode ourselves, as you said, so we can learn more about ourselves, and also in memory of our beloved people. So thank you all very much for sharing, and thank you for being here. It's my great pleasure to moderate this session. Now I'm going to hand it over to Kara for conclusions and wrap. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Siyi. If you have, I apologize, the the input from both panels was so rich that it's like we had our timing, but you can't cut them off because, but I did place everyone's email, including my own, and then some of the panel members gave alternative emails. It's towards the end of our chat. If you have questions for any of our panel members, or you want to connect with them, to publish, to inquire about something, whatever it may be, now or in the future, please copy their emails and save them. And if you lose them, you can always contact me and I will get you to them, because writing is really a community process. You think it's about being alone, but it's not. You need to be with people in order to be able to be productive when you sit down by yourself. I really just want to thank all the panel members and all the attendees. This session was like double attendance, probably because we had 2 interest groups here. So we drew on 2 interest group members population. It was really, really wonderful. I thank you all. And with that, there will be a recording that will later be posted and available. And I see everybody saying thank you, thank you. Well, thank you all. And with that, have a wonderful Saturday evening or late evening, depending on, are you Central or East Coast?
Thank you all. See you next time.
Nice to meet everyone.
Yes, nice to meet everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, that was in the chat.
I'll close out last so everybody can leave. I will close the final meeting because otherwise you will be catapulted out.
Kara, can you just share? Why don't you just share everybody's emails?
I did. It's in the chat. It's no longer at the bottom. Let me recopy it.
No, it's just, oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, because so many people have commented and then said goodbye, but now it's at the end. Yes.
Okay.
Let's leave the chat before we forget.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I will stay here
Thank
for
you.
a little bit so that attendees or people have time to grab some email, grab whatever they want.
Can you download the chat for people? I think you can.
Oh, yeah. I always use MS Teams. Let's see. Hey, Eileen, you're with me. I'm always in MS Teams. Downloading the chat. I mean, I know you can do it, but where should I go?
I saved the chat. So you go to meeting chat and there's 3 dots next to each other on the right hand side.
Save chat.
There should be, but I don't.
I did it.
You did it? Okay, I don't see
I did it too.